Well, good evening, everyone. This is Sandy Shellis, and hi, TCR Galaxy. Okay, I got to tell you, we're gonna have some issues tonight with Jim because I see what's happening. He is with me, and I'm just trying to see if I can see. He's frozen, and the Skype keeps telling me I have a lousy connection, put it that way. So I'm I'm going to try my best. So welcome Jim Massa with Science Talk. I am absolutely thrilled to have you. And even if you look crappy, we will figure out how to make this work. If I have to take the graphic down and just have you audio. But people are with us and they're joining us, which is great. I couldn't share on Facebook, so if anybody's watching from Facebook, please share to the group. Jim, welcome.
Very glad to be here.
And we have a lag, so I will be quiet. Can you tell us a little about yourself while everybody's joining? And then I can maybe try to share this on Facebook. I think we're going to have problems. I'm trying, guys.
Yeah,
Can we hear Jim?
a little bit.
Okay, somebody said using black and white. I don't know how to change it to black and white. He's up in Alaska, all the way, and I'm in Western New York. Hi, Vanessa Kitty. Well, people are joining, but I don't know what we're going to have to do. I hope that we don't have to do this. Well, there's people watching on Facebook, too. Could you please share it to the group from the page? Thank you. Cut it, just put them on the phone. All right, maybe we'll have to do that. Okay, because I really don't want this. I really want this to be a good interview, and we've prepared this. We've wanted to do this. We can hear you now, Jim.
I'm hearing you loud and clear. You got, is there still that delay?
Yes, but
Yeah.
we'll try. So tell us a little about yourself before I change this.
Well, let's see. I'm an oceanographer, climatologist. Um, my research in grad school looked at salmon of all things. Um, how physical processes affected their food forage field. But then afterwards, I got involved in the sea ice research once I got through all my graduate schooling, and that's what I did for quite some time. Up in the Arctic Ocean, we would go up to Barrow, go into the Chukchi and other nearby areas, and study sea ice,
That
all
is
sorts of aspects of sea ice. When it freezes, how thick the ice is, when it melts, the extent, etc.
wow. It's like you've lived a dream that a lot of us probably would have liked to be able to do. We like to live vicariously through you.
Well, I can honestly say that I'm a small group of people who have actually seen a polar bear not in a zoo.
Right.
So, and
I
polar
hear you.
bears hunt humans, by the way. So,
Well, okay, we're going to try this. So we had some discussion on what we wanted to talk about, and last night I told everybody in my rant about the sea ice and the heat that they should come with questions. So we're going to do questions towards the end. Let's hope right now we can hang on to the connection. And so we had some questions and we wanted to talk, and I don't know what you guys wanted to talk about, but I wanted to talk about, to start with, the Arctic and how you the contrast between Eurasia and North America, which is the Arctic dipole, or as you say you call it, the bipolar polar, and the Eurasia being hot and North America is cool. So how hot Siberia's been, fires. So let's start with that, because that was the topic last night, and now all of a sudden you look much better. So hopefully everybody got offline and we have a good a good connection. So let's start with that, because that's fascinating stuff.
Well, okay, right now, if you look at the current conditions, and let's start on the Eurasia side. Siberia, if you look at the temperature anomalies, it is extremely much warmer than what is typical for that region. We're talking close to 7-8 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. So it's like 3 degrees C. And as a result, it's so warm that the ground is drying out, because the warmer air can hold more moisture. So it sucks the moisture out of the ground, the area prone to fires. And that's what we see happening now, is that Siberia is literally burning up. Here in Alaska, we're actually getting smoke because of the prevailing westerlies, blowing smoke from Siberia over into Alaska. So we see that, and then when you go offshore of Siberia into the Laptev and the Kara Seas, there's no sea ice. It's like none, which is extremely unusual. And then you move across all the way to the Scandinavian side, and it's warmer than usual. Now you go on the North American side, and here in Alaska, we're actually cooler than average. And it's cooler than average also into the Yukon Territory. When it starts getting closer to Hudson Bay region, it gets to be about average, maybe it's a tad warmer, but there definitely is a cooler situation sitting over Alaska and the Yukon Territory, such that when we look at the sea ice now, it's about what we would expect historically. It's perhaps maybe a little less, but it's certainly not less than it has been in prior years. So it's driving boundaries of high and low pressure systems that sit over the Arctic, one sitting over Greenland, one sitting over the Siberia side, and they kind of jostle around, move around a bit, and that's going to affect airflow, and then translates into what we see on the sea surface ice flow movements on the surface of the Arctic Ocean. In fact, it was, I was involved with the team looking at sea ice. It was our work coupled with what the atmospheric scientists folks were doing, that the Arctic dipole was even, so it was the work of the sea ice folks and the atmospheric folks that we said, oh, we've got this new phenomenon. We were able to demonstrate its existence, and coupled with what the Arctic ice oscillation does, if ice is kept in the Arctic Ocean basin or ice gets shoved out the Fram Strait. But atmospherically, that is also controlling what we're seeing going on. And right now, the system is pretty much locked in that for the last, 4, 5, 6 months, Siberia is just warmer than it should be.
It's scary warm.
And by the way, I do discuss a lot of my oscillatory systems of the planet on my channel there. So folks, go check it out. It's some of them are lengthy, but what the hell?
I'm going to show them. This is Science Talk with Jim Massa. Please sub his channel. I learn from Jim, okay? I will put my headphones on, and if I can't watch and I have things to do, I listen and I learn. It's like being in school. This is how I've learned a lot over the last, year and a half that I have known Jim, and we've been trying to do this and get together. And I believe that somebody introduced me to you. I don't remember who it was, but all of your videos are awesome. And I'm sorry. And then you have another channel now with Whitney Alex, who you met through the Natural Progressive, who is just terrific. And so you guys, you need subs there. There's only 17 subscribers there, and she's working with you to make these really sweet videos. And guys, there can't be enough of us out here, and especially somebody like Jim who really knows his stuff. So I'm giving that plug because I you need to get to at least 1,000 so you can have a live stream and you can host me when my connection is so crappy and Skype kicks us off. You have DSL, so you might be able to host it and look a lot better than I've got you looking here. So I wanted to show that, and I wanted to segue. I want to ask you about. Everybody talks about the Blue Ocean event. And that's can you give me your idea of what that is and your explanation? Because you're saying that the sea ice is similar to what it's been. And then you read a whole lot of different opinions and people are always asking about it. So let's hear it from you.
Well, for the thing to keep in mind is that, decreasing sea ice amount is not going to affect sea level. It's because the reason why it's called sea ice is because the source of the ice from the sea. Mm-hmm. But what people need to keep in mind is that when the sea freezes to form the ice, any salt that's in the water gets ejected. It's called brine rejection. So that when the ice finally forms, you could take that ice, melt it, filter it, and drink it. You can. But what happens is, because you're now leaving a little more salt in the upper layers of the ocean, you're creating a little more dense surface layer, and that little more dense surface layer is going to sink. So you get this little bit of a vertical mixing, which is very critical for what we call ice edge productivity that happens certain times of the year. I actually have some videos that I'm prepping now that explains all of this. I've got videos upcoming on ice algae and on stratification, all that kind of stuff. So they're lengthy video. Get your dinner plates going or something, but look for those coming up soon. But here's the thing. The issue is when you don't have the sea ice, then you have open water. The open water, as opposed to having the ice, because it's a thing called albedo, which reflects the sun energy back. So having sea ice keeps the planet cool. Well, we're losing the sea ice, so now we have an open water. The open
All right. Give it a second. It comes back. It's the connection. It comes back, guys. He can hear me, but we have a problem with him. I might have to call him back or take off the... I don't want to take off the audio. This is really pissing me off. Why do you think Skype's giving me trouble tonight? It says reconnecting. There's a poor network connection. And I'm going to turn off incoming video. And let's see if
water's absorbing this.
All right. Jim, we couldn't hear you. I don't know if they could.
Where did you hear?
I don't know what anybody could hear. I took you off.
Hear me up.
Can hear you now. A little bit. Guys. All right, just a second. Jim, talk.
Okay. All
right.
Where do you want me to pick up with on the sea ice topic?
Okay. Pick up where you were talking about the... Oh, geez. I get so... Yeah, it's breaking up with image turned off. Where were we? I don't know where we were. I mean, obviously the blue ocean event, people always asking about it. You were talking about the what happens in the middle. What happens in the middle in the sea with the melt? I think that's where we were. And I'm so sorry, guys. This is what's going to happen.
Well, okay, let's kind of maybe let's back to the sea ice is that albedo reflects a lot of this energy out of the water and now melt the ice from below, from above, further increasing how much.
Okay. I think everybody heard you, and I didn't.
Oh,
I'm
that's why I paused. I just wanted to make sure where was that.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is just put up the little picture of you and let you talk, and let's see how just the audio goes for a while. All right, because nobody's saying anything. Yes, we're both using Skype, and I'm using a Mac because my system is called Ecamm Live, and we use it is a specific to Skype. All right, so let's try to do this again without the video. Go for it, Jim.
Okay. All right. At the risk of sounding repetitive here, but hey, that's what it is. Um, Sea ice, albedo, reflects sun energy back into space. Open water absorbs that sun energy. As the more and more sea ice melts, more and more energy is being absorbed by the water, which further helps more sea ice. And even so, the other bit of that is that the warmer ocean makes it harder for these to freeze to form in the first have a lot of solute concentration. The highest salinity, or at least seawater, has a higher salinity than fresh water. You have to get the water to a before it can freeze,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's called freezing point depression. So that means that's even more energy that in order to freeze it, but you have this energy in the water. So uh, so that is another reason why this the this
Don't talk. I can't hear you. Guys, hang on a second. I'm calling you back, Jim. We're going to try this again. Technology is great, isn't it? No, sucks. Hang on. Some people say you can hear and some people say you can't. So I'm
sea
doing.
ice is formed.
Oh, he couldn't even hear me. Jim, can you hear me? Oh, boy. You want to have a good show? And this is the shit that happens. I'm calling him back.
Forming later.
Use the landline phone? Hang on. Hang on. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to hang up. We'll start over. We'll try one more time, guys. I am very sorry. You know, this kind of stuff hasn't happened in a long time. And I don't know what the problem is. All right. Hasn't happened to me in a long time with Skype. I mean, but he is in Alaska, so we will do this again. One more time, and I'm going to just call free on Skype, and we'll see if we can hear it. You there? Oh, you back?
Okay.
All right, let's see how
I'm
this
hearing you,
happens.
but I'm not seeing you.
You're not seeing me? That's okay. It's okay, as long as you can
Okay.
hear me. Gary says this is like watching TV in the 1950s. Well, I might have to edit the hell out of this. Actually, you look better now. I don't know what I did, but go for it. So, all right, let's before this stuff. See, everybody says I should just do a landline phone and blah blah. But you know what? And I can't use Zoom with my software, guys. So I heard it might be. Maybe it's perfect. Oh, somebody said tell Jim to turn off Sandy's camera. Boy, I'll tell you what. We just want to have one good goddamn show. But now Jim looks great to me. So let's go for it. Let me go back to the questions where we were, and let's not just keep dwelling on the fact that the internet really sucks. All right. So we do you any more of you have any more questions on what we were talking about with the blue ocean? Because I don't know what you heard or any of it, but I did want to go on to talk about the ocean acidification, which was one of those things also. And if we're finished with your Arctic dipole or the bipolar polar, do you want to move on, or do you have anything that you wanted to finish? I'm sorry, everybody's making me laugh. Torstein says try exchanging letters. I thank gosh that you're all so wonderful, everybody that's with us. They know that this stuff happens. So, all right, Jim, I'm going to leave it up to you.
I, well, y- hopefully folks were able to
I think we're not having a good time. I
hear
think I'm
some
going
of
to
what's going
cry.
on. But I'm sorry.
No, I'm just not having a good time because all this crap keeps happening and I can't hear you. Maybe they can.
So, as to the ocean acidification,
Mm-hmm.
what's happening is that you have the air-water interface. So carbon dioxide is getting mixed into the ocean, into the surface layers. That, of course, is increasing the concentration of CO2 in the water. Well, carbon dioxide and water combine to form carbonic acid, which is a weak acid, but it still is an acid nonetheless, and that is lowering the pH. This is part of the reason that's leading to what we see the coral bleaching
Yeah.
problem. So it's the acidification. There's a couple of things to keep in mind, however. Because right now there is vertical circulation in the ocean, we take surface water and we form what's called thermohaline circulation, deep water formation. The water sinks from the surface, goes to depth. As it's sinking, it's bringing with it whatever is dissolved at the time. So it could be nitrates, it could be CO2,
Ugh.
it could be organisms, marine snow we call them, dead organisms. It's circulating. If you shut down the this vertical circulation, you're going to actually shut down the removal of CO2 and other chemical species from surface waters to depth. That will lead to further issues with increasing acidity at shallower depths. Now, with gases, the colder the So, one,
Why is this happening?
water
I think we might have to do something different. We might actually have to do a live stream. I mean, a show pre-recorded because this is happening again.
temperature is, the more that can.
Because this is happening again.
Be designed. It looks like you just played back something.
Yeah, everybody's saying, of course Jim will redo it. We're going to have to do this. We're going to have to record it because I'm getting really unhappily upset. And people are. All right, let's see if we can get you some more. Heidi said he mentioned Hudson Bay area. Would like to know about the implications of this warming on the James Bay ecosystem. This is important to her because she's been endeavoring to stop the Hydro-Quebec and Central Maine power. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know that I'm originally a New Englander.
Okay, well, she's got this really long thing. I can't even put this up. Okay, listen, I'm getting so frustrated. And I love you guys, but Jim, if this does, Groot, he says landline. I'm going to try it. Jim, I'm going to cut you off and I'm going to try calling you back on the landline and see if I can just get you, put your audio on my microphone. Are you there? I'm going to try. I think I have his number. Jim, do I have your number? Oh, this is a real botch job.
I'll email it to you quickly when I do that.
All right, guys, hang on then. I mean, I'm still here, but we're just going to shit can Skype. Email me your number. We're going to shit can Skype because this is just obviously not working out very well. I don't know. What do you think's in the way of Alaska? All right, I'll keep his picture up and I'll make it a little bit smaller. And then what I'll do is I will shut it all down and just do it on the phone. He's going to email me his number. Thank you for all. I mean, a lot of people have left. I don't blame you. It's frustrating. It's annoying when this kind of stuff doesn't work. And it's just goes to show you that I need a signal booster. Carl says it's always like this. I have family up there. And Hoople said Trump is calling me. Trump is calling me. He wants you to head America's IT task force. Oh, I'm winning. Yeah. At least you're all so patient, which is great. Okay, I'm going to call him now on this number. And then let's see if we can get it on the speaker. Oh, well, maybe I'll just do it this way.
Can you hear me, Sam?
Yeah, can you all hear, guys? Go ahead, Jim. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see what everybody says. All right, so let's keep going with the ocean acidification where you think you left off, and then we'll see if this works, if everybody can hear you.
Sounds good. Okay, so that's why I'm getting a bit of an echo. That's okay. I'll deal with it. So let's see, where was I going? Oh yes, as the surface ocean temperatures warm up, water can hold less gas. So basically, the solubility of most substances when you dissolve it in water will increase with an increase in temperature, except for gases. Gas solubility in water is the reverse. Solubility of gases increases with a decrease in temperature. So a problem that's going to happen is that as the ocean's water continues to warm, the CO2 could start outgassing back into the atmosphere. But going back to what I said earlier about vertical sinking, removing species, chemical species, organic species, whatever, from surface waters to deep waters, that helps keep the levels at a lower rate, lower level concentration in the upper layers. If the deep water slows down, the concentrations are going to increase in the surface area, thereby increasing the acidity, decreasing the pH, and there's another thing called the lysocline. The lysocline is referencing what's called the calcite compensation depth. And basically, below the lysocline, calcite stays in solution. Above the lysocline, calcite precipitates. Well, the lysocline is getting shallower, which means it's more likely, the calcite is more likely to stay in solution. This presents a problem to organisms that use calcite to make their shells. Basically, they can't. This is how their survival is in peril, because if they can't make their shells, mortality will increase. So this is why I say that the increasing acidification presents a problem to organisms. It's because of what's happening with the dissolved levels of calcite.
Wow. That's pretty wild. The dissolved okay, somebody asked Gene said limestone, is that something?
Well,
involved?
limestone is one type of calcite. I don't want to get too crazy here, but you got aragonite, you got different types of calcite, which is basically calcium carbonate, but depending on the isotope, depending on the formation of the configuration of the atoms comprising the molecule, etc., you get slightly different forms. So, but in essence, it's still calcium carbonate.
Okay. And that's what gives the acidification.
And that will you increase the calcite concentration, you increase the acidification. Because the thing is, CO2 and water makes carbonic acid. And
say that again. What acid?
Carbonic.
Oh, carbonic. Okay.
Yep, carbonic acid. That is what lowers the pH, but that also then, because you're lowering the pH, that also makes any substances that might be in precipitative form dissolve.
Oh.
You can dissolve solids by increasing the temperature, increasing the pressure, decreasing the pH. Any one or all three of those combinations can keep calcite in solution.
Okay. So it keeps okay. A little beyond my pay grade here. I'm just trying to understand so that everybody else can understand that this will affect all marine life.
Especially those that make a shell based on carbonate.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And what about marine plant life?
Marine, which life?
Plant life.
Oh, phytoplankton. There are many phytoplanktons that also make a test that covers the unicellular organisms that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And many of those tests, or shells and tests are the same thing.
Okay.
So some of them are made out of calcareous material, calcite. Others are made out of silica. For example, diatoms, which are found in high latitude waters like the Gulf of Alaska, they make their test shells out of silica. However, because the Bering Sea is warming up, the diatoms are being replaced by another group of phytoplankton called coccolithophorids. Their shells are made
Okay.
of calcite.
Don't ask me to spell it.
In fact, we can actually, as part of recreating past climates, we get a sediment core, whatever. We look at what we call salacious oozes, calcareous oozes, which basically we look at the shell and say, oh yeah, this is silica, this is calcite, and then we can find out, we can identify the species, we look at the isotopes, we then know what's going on with the water temperature, the ice levels,
Wow.
et cetera. We can recreate a whole bunch of information from past climates.
And then we obviously know from past climates and what's happening now where we're going to be. I mean, everybody in the chat is saying bye-bye. Well, John Schmidt said bye-bye oxygen. And Hoople's cat says they die, we die. I mean, it doesn't sound... Ocean acidification is pretty serious.
It's extremely serious because if the phytoplankton start losing their shells, they die, the whole ecosystem will collapse. And phytoplankton provide 55 to 80% of the oxygen that we breathe.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a shitload.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No, shitload, fuckload, tonload. I don't care tonight. Oh, jeez.
But, this is another example of that. This will impact terrestrial organisms. And last time I checked, we're pretty much terrestrial organisms.
Yeah, we are. We are terrestrial organisms. What about this? Arctic currents warming, fires are throwing soot, creating more CO2. That's Matt Nelson. He's a climatologist that always follows. Is part of our family.
I didn't catch that. What was it, Austin?
Okay, his comment was Arctic currents warming, fires throwing soot, creating CO2.
CO2 is from a lot of sources. For example, as one thing that climate deniers always use is that, well, the CO2 levels increase after the temperatures increase, so it can't be controlling temperatures. But what's been found is that the CO2 and temperatures do indeed track. There is a little bit of a bump of CO2 after some warming because, wait for it, the sea surface temperatures have warmed up and the CO2 has been outgassed from the oceans back into the atmosphere.
Wow.
And there is some concern that this is going to start happening because sea surface temperatures worldwide are about 1 to 2 degrees C above average. And when you think about the specific heat of water, that is a tremendous amount of energy that's been absorbed by the ocean. The oceans thus far have been saving our bacon.
They have. And you're an oceanographer, so you absolutely are right on top of this one.
I tried.
Yeah, your videos definitely prove it. So can we segue onto sea level rise a little bit, since that seems to be one of Antonio's topics? You know Antonio Rude, who's with us?
Sure.
Well, that's one of his topics that he likes to discuss. So tell me, when we go from acidification to sea level rise, is there a correlation between the two at all? I know one is more of a metabolic process, and the other is from melting. But
well, the only here there really isn't a connection between the ocean acidification and sea level rise, other than CO2.
okay.
We're burning fossil fuels, we're increasing the CO2 levels in the atmosphere. That warms up the planet, so you get the melting. But you then also have more CO2 that can mix into the ocean, that then decreases the pH, and we get what we just discussed. As to the sea level rise, keep in mind, sea ice itself does not change sea level, because the source of the sea ice is from the sea.
Okay.
What changes the sea level is land-based ice melting,
That the
such as Greenland,
permafrost.
such as Antarctica,
Yeah.
or any alpine glaciers. The Himalayas are called the third pole. There's a lot of ice up there, and that's also melting away. So what's going on? There's two major things happening right now. One is the way these glaciers glacier down in Antarctica, along with the Pine Island and the Brunt ice shelf nearby. There is concerns that Thwaites is in imminent danger of collapse. If that were to happen, the estimates conservatively would put sea level rises as 3 to 5 feet.
And
That's conservative.
and in what time frame?
They don't know. They don't know. But they're saying probably with, they're monitoring this. It could happen tomorrow. It can happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now. They don't know. More data is needed.
Do you think the mitigation?
But the melt rate is increasing.
Mm-hmm.
The melt rate is increasing. And I've got a story coming out about Greenland that lots of times you have, seasonal surface melt of the ice on top of Greenland. And it drills a little hole through the ice, and it stays in the ice, and then refreezes for the winter. Well, now they're finding what's called slab ice, which is, as the name implies, slab of ice. When the meltwater hits this, it then just runs off. It runs off Greenland and into the ocean.
Okay.
So here's another mechanism for increasing meltwater from Greenland entering the ocean.
Pretty
which
heavy.
Will, of course, increase sea levels.
Yeah. And I've heard, I know this, but it's when you're talking to the person that puts out the videos, part of the, it's a lot, it's a lot more interesting, I think. So I have a question about mitigation effects. You hear about sea level rise, and then we hear about, Miami, they're going to build this, they're going to build that, these places, Venice, whatever. Are any of these mitigation effects, do they really have a shot in hell of working?
The best mitigation effect is to stop burning fossil fuel.
Okay.
But here's the problem. Even if humans, civilization was to stop this very instant, no more burning fossil fuel, there is enough thermal inertia, enough thermal energy in the system that things are going to keep going.
Yeah. Are we 20 years behind?
I mean, look what happened. We had the lockdown because of COVID earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
So there was less air flight, so less pollution from airplanes. And yeah, there was a drop in the CO2 emission, but it had really no significant impact on what it was doing to temperatures worldwide.
Well, can I segue? Remember what we talked about earlier? Last night I was on and I was talking about how I don't watch mainstream media much, and I did today. And I happened to put on MSNBC, and Ari Melber had on Al Roker, okay? They talked for a total. They showed a little video and talked for a total of less than 3 minutes about the Arctic ice and climate change, okay? And then Al said, well, he's ever the optimist, and he did mention, look what great things we can do. We can do fantastic things. We did it for COVID, and now we can do it. But, we saw the CO2 go down, and now it's going up again because we went back to normal life. But I'm an optimist, and that's where they left it. And then they went on to have Richard Lewis on, the comedian, and that was it. That was it. And it's like we're not going to get the reality that we get from a person like you or Paul Beckwith or Guy McPherson. And that's going to segue me into a question about the aerosol effect and what your thoughts are if human industrial civilization is actually keeping us cooler.
Well, I'm not a civil engineer, but I think what civilization is doing is actually exacerbating the situation. You got your concrete asphalt jungles and, steel jungles and all that kind of stuff. It just makes cities much, much hotter because asphalt really absorbs heat. Grasses do not as much.
Okay.
So, as to, the geoengineering schemes, I've done videos where I just slam the crap out of those schemes.
A lot of us don't like it either.
Well, it's first of all, like take for example, there was this one scheme of let's just build a big concrete wall around Antarctica. Are you freaking serious? First of all, here's another thing. A lot of people may not be aware of this, but making concrete is a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. Major contributor.
It is. I know.
So just to make all the concrete, the cement to make the concrete and all that kind of stuff there, well, how are you going to get there around Antarctica? How are you going to dam off the ocean to pour the stuff? I mean, it's just a stupid idea. Just as, let's just spray the sky with all these various, chemicals that will reflect sunlight. But then what happens is that stuff washes out of the atmosphere, gets into the ground, ruins the soil so that it interferes with the root system of plants so they can't absorb water and other nutrients, and then the crops die.
So, as Poppy said earlier in a comment, I guess we are so fucked. WASF. But I do have a question. I will segue from my lovely use of profanity. Gru wants to know, have they slowed down logging in Alaska? Now, there's going to a different, bit of a different question. What's going on up there with Trump's ecological devastation of Anwar, and they want to mine now and build new roads? And I know Alaskans, Alaskans are for some of this because don't Alaskans get a stipend from the government from fossil fuels? Can we talk about all of that since you live there?
Well, over the past 3-4 decades, Alaska has warmed up significantly, like about close to 4 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
However, because of what the Arctic Dipole is doing now, we're in a kind of a cool situation. So this past winter was actually one of the nastier winters, one of the colder winters in the last 25 years or so. We didn't get the severe, at least here in Fairbanks, we didn't get the 60, 65, 70 below, but we had a fair share of 40 below and persistent 30 below or colder for like 8-9 weeks. So it was, on that respect, it was a cold winter. As to Anwar, the politicians keep pushing to open the thing.
Yeah.
The oil companies are not really interested in because they know that it's kind of a dry hole.
Oh. And they have to put a lot of infrastructure in.
And the logistics to build the roads and paths to get the equipment up there is nightmarish.
Okay.
Now, what basically pissed me off was hearing about Trump okaying the approval to do the mining, the Pebble mine, which will, if that goes forward, that will destroy, I'm not mincing words here, that will destroy the Bristol Bay salmon fisheries. It will destroy it. And there are many, many people that rely on the salmon that's there for their survival. So this is just totally pissed me off. Ever since I've been up here, I've been trying to protect these areas, add my voice, yada, yada. But, it always comes down to the corporations just controlling and running everything, and what the people want really doesn't seem to matter diddly squat. But
tell me, there's a lot of Republicans. I mean, you have Republican senator, you have Lisa Murkowski, who I think is an incredible sellout. I wanted to. Yeah, putting it mildly, yeah, she is. I don't like her at all, and I think that I don't think they represent the best interest in Alaska. But tell me about that. That do people get a stipend that live in Alaska from
Well, first of all, let's mention the other illustrious, no sarcasm, Senator Dan Sullivan.
Yeah, that
who
one.
is a Koch brothers huge. He's funded by the Koch brothers. Let's just get that out there. As to the permanent fund dividend, that was set up by the late Governor Jay Hammond.
Okay.
Because it says that's Alaska's resources. It belongs to the people. And basically, yes, depending, you have to be eligible, yada, yada, yada. There's a question you fill out, all that stuff. But basically, people got a stipend because basically what was happening was the oil companies were paying royalties to the state of Alaska for the privilege, if you will, of extracting the resource.
Okay, that's what it was.
Well, when Sarah Palin resigned the governorship to become John McCain's running mate, her lieutenant governor, Sean Parnell, became governor. First thing he did was, and he ran it through the legislature, was a recalculation of the formula that calculates how much royalties the oil companies pay to the state of Alaska. The result was that we have now a $935 billion per year budget shortfall. So now Bill Walker gets in as governor, and he says, well, we have to make up this difference. So what they now do is they take half of our permanent fund dividend and give it to the government.
Okay.
Instead of going back to the old formulation, they take it from the people. And this year, the PFD was reduced by 67%.
Wow.
And instead of getting $3,000, we got $900.
So do the people there vote against their best interests? Obviously, if they have these politicians that don't give two shits about them, tell me about the political climate up there. I know we're segueing from science, but it's interesting to me.
You've read the book, What's the Matter with Kansas, right?
No, I'm embarrassed to say.
What's the Matter with Kansas explores why people vote against their best
interests. Okay. Yeah, why people vote against their
best up here. You just have people who just don't engage in critical thinking. They just buy hook, line, and sinker all the bullshit thrown at them. And then we get this screwed up situation.
Okay.
It's the same no matter where you go.
Yep, no matter where you go.
With the oil industry up here, we have a lot of replanted Texans.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
So that's why. So they transplanted their shitty ass politics. What about the indigenous people up there, the Inupiats and all the indigenous? Are they politically active now? Because
they are, and they always are fighting against all of these resource extractive industries because it affects their way of life, it affects their subsistence.
Yeah.
I mean, you go out to the villages, and a gallon of diesel will cost you, like now it's like $12, and there's no jobs there. I mean, they're living off the land.
Oh.
And a gallon of milk will cost $8.
Right.
It's just crazy. So they're being affected by this, and global warming is affecting them successfully hunting. If you have the Yupik and the Inuits trying to go out on the sea ice to hunt seals, walruses, bowhead whales, or whatever, they're trying to hunt seals, and there's no sea ice there.
Yeah.
They can't get the seal, but if the sea ice is there, it's not. It used to be that you didn't know where the shoreline and the ice and the ocean began because it was just one continuous thing.
Right.
Now it's more dangerous to go out there. You don't have the sea ice. You don't have the sea ice protecting the coastline. So you get these storms and waves and batter the crap out of the shoreline, and then you have whole chunks of the real estate just dropping into the ocean to the point that villages have to relocate.
Yeah.
And it's putting the seal hunters at risk. A lot of them don't make it back.
Wow. This is serious stuff. I mean, I don't like seal hunting. I've never liked the trade, but this is indigenous people who've been doing these things for thousands of years. It's not. Or do people come from Europe and America, United States? Do they come from other countries to take advantage of the wildlife there? Does Alaska give out those kind of permits in a frequent manner?
Well, they do limit the number of hunters that can come in from outside Alaska to sport hunt. There's nothing sporting about it. I have no problem with hunting if the person, harvesting the
Subsistence.
animal is actually using the animal to live.
Right.
You're going to eat the animal.
Right.
But if you just want to have a rug on your floor, a head on your wall, get the hell out of here. I don't
Yeah.
want to see you.
Okay.
No,
Does your state feel like that?
I'm sorry?
Does your state feel like that?
It's hard to say. I mean, you have the Board of Game that is very instrumental in determining policies and so on. The problem is, like everything else, science has become so political.
Yeah.
And it's not just, it's at the local, state, and federal level. I mean, the fact that you have to send in proposals to a bunch of dimwits in Congress who don't know diddly squat about science, and they're going to decide what science research to fund.
Oh my
I think
God.
that tells you the problem of the system right there.
Right there. Right there. Well, let's segue to logging then, because that was what Groot originally asked before I got off on the tangent, because I'm fascinated. Alaska's my bucket list, and I don't know if I'll ever make it, but can you talk about logging up there?
I have to admit, I'm aware it goes on. I don't know the extent, and that's not something I really follow as far as the BLM and forestry, what they're doing with that. So I can't really speak to that, other
Okay.
than I know that, it does take place, and there is danger. Now, the Tongass is in danger, which is a temperate rainforest,
Yeah.
and that needs to be left alone. I can tell you that, my opinion on that.
Yeah, that wasn't that one also supposed to be opened up.
Yeah.
For the
They want to turn Alaska into the lower 48 as far as destroying everything.
Yeah, it makes me, you know what? I could sit here and actually get tears. I've never been there, but it hurts. It hurts that we do this. And I know that, Russia has their part of the Arctic that they've terribly abused. And, but you're right up there. So, and you are a resident of Alaska. So to me, asking you these questions makes sense. I'm not going to ask you about, what's going on in Norilsk, although Jennifer and I talk about that all the time. Anyway, all right. Well, let's segue. I hope everybody. I know Heidi had her question about the. It was way back, and it was a very long one about that St. James. Oh my God! If I could find it again, it was so long. Did you hear me? Was that before we kind of screwed up the Skype got all screwed up? Because I'm looking for it just to see if you know anything about it. See if he can also answer the question about the warming of James Bay on the Cree and Inuit ecosystem, also impacted by Hydro-Quebec's mega dams and genocidal electricity.
Okay, I can address it in two general broad ways. First, when you have any body of water, it could be a pond, a lake, the ocean. To have biological productivity, you need to have two major events. You need to have mixing of the water column so that nutrients get mixed into what's called a photic zone, which is how the sunlight can penetrate in the water column, followed by a stratification so that everything is locked in place there. The phytoplankton do their thing, the zooplankton beat the phytos, etc., etc. So when you have global warming, that affects all of that, and it will affect it in a bad way. As far as the damming goes, anytime you put a structure in place that will interfere with migratory patterns, behaviors of organisms, that's going to have a deleterious effect.
And that's what's going on there. And these people are losing their livelihood.
I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, but I can tell you in general terms that is what you can expect.
All right. Well, I think, let me see if it's a long comment. Oh, she has it. She says they want to sell their genocidal electricity to New England. in New York, and it's a green base. It's Green New Deal on this genocidal electricity to our Korean Inuit neighbors. Well, you know what? We're going to this is a very long one, Heidi, and I think what we're going to do with yours is I'm going to hook you up with Jim, and he might be able to help you more, actually, than we can right now on the live stream. But thank you, Heidi, because Heidi is an amazing activist. She's in Maine, and she is just somebody that never stops.
Whereabouts in Maine?
Heidi, put it in the comment because I forgot exactly where you live in Maine. And
I'm originally from Berlin, New Hampshire.
okay, well, you're a New Englander. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I actually do remember back in the day of Hydro-Quebec, sending power lines into Vermont, and there was discussion about doing the same into New Hampshire. So I do remember that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
she's right in on the activism up there, and it's I know what she wants, but I don't know if we can really do that explanation at this point. But we were going to segue into something else. Actually, what would you like to talk about and tell us about things that you're most interested in? Because we're an hour, but I'm going to end up editing this anyway. I'm going to take it down and edit it so that we won't have the whole beginning of the mess. So what's your most interesting subject to you?
Well, obviously, oceanography, climatology, that's kind of what I did a lot of, as well as teaching. My other interests, and you'll see this in some of my videos there,
Yeah.
is paleontology.
Okay.
I'm just into, especially, the fact that what we call birds today are really dinosaurs. So not all dinosaurs went extinct. So I'm really interested in following that, all the developments and research in that area.
Yeah.
Music. My dream or my ambition way back in the Neolithic era was to be a rock musician.
Oh, but you play now, right?
So, I'm a product of 60s and 70s rock, so,
Yes. I think a lot of us here are. I wanted to be a cross between Janis Joplin and Barbra Streisand. I sang with a band for like a tiny little amount of time, and forget.
I actually had a reputation on campus as Keith Jr.
Oh, really? Aw, that's cool.
I was playing Keith Emerson's stuff. I was playing Take a Pebble, Tarkus.
Wow.
Yeah, Tarkus is crazy. But it's just like, how the hell you come up with that?
I remember that one. She did tell us where she is, and I can't find it. Brunswick? Oh, Heidi. Oh, southern Maine near Brunswick in Wabanaki Territory. That's where she is.
I didn't catch that.
Okay, Wabanaki Territory. She's in Brunswick, southern Maine. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you. I always like to give Heidi a pat on the back, man, because she walks the walk. She really does. Okay, so Stephen has a comment here. Ranchers are most responsible for the state's killing wolf packs, bears, and coyotes. Oh, he's talking about being a vegetarian. Is there ranching in Alaska? I know, silly question, but just popped in my head. They got ranching.
I didn't catch that. What was that?
Ranch. Ranches, ranching.
Oh, ranching.
Yeah, I think so.
It used to be on the western Alaska towards the Alaska Peninsula, and up towards the Stewart Peninsula. There used to be caribou sort of ranching activity. That's kind of decreased lately.
How about those kilchers on television? They've got cows. You see them. Alaska, what is it? The Alaska, the last frontier. Is it really like that? Those people are very wealthy.
Yeah, well, there is that. That's why I live in the woods here in my modest abode.
Yeah.
Which I can only afford because I built it myself.
Wow, that's cool. What'd you build it out of?
Oh, 2 bys.
Yeah.
2x6s,
Mhm.
and then I spurred out the wall, so I have basically an R33 wall, which is actually more thermally efficient than logs could be. So, and it's less weight.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that, yeah.
That's cool. How long you been there?
It took me 3 years being a weekend warrior to build this thing.
Wow.
But about 10 years now in this.
Oh.
I lived in other places, but I finally moved in about 10 years ago.
And what's your heat source?
I'm sorry?
What's your heat source?
Oh, Toyo. I use the Toyo #1 fuel.
Wait, oil? Really?
Really?
Really? So
It's
you
more
don't
efficient. It's more efficient than wood, believe it or not.
Well, we heat with wood, but my husband, he gets his wood from, we're still getting it from a tornado that happened 3 years ago. And we heat with a catalytic converter low-pi stove, so I could feel less guilty. Although,
Well, I used to live in places where I heated with wood, but let's just say I haven't had a little too many injuries, and the body protests if I start swinging the axe. So.
I hear you. My husband cut his I guess last year he almost cut his finger off, but he's accident prone anyway. I mean, the man is accident prone, but he sits there and he does the firewood. You know, they did it quite a bit actually during the shutdown when he wasn't working. He and his brother were in the woods the entire time, and these were not trees they were taking down. They were already down. It was 100 acres he had permission to work on, and there's still some up there. So I don't know. I like heating with wood because it warms my house much better than propane that we have access to, to use. But
well, the property that I bought, there's a cabin right on it. I lived in the I bought this property, had a cabin on it. So I lived in the cabin while I was building the house. And the cabin had a Toyo and a wood stove in there. And yeah, I did use the wood stove. But basically, I decided, because I was away a lot, it's just easier to keep the heat contained by using the Toyo as opposed to having a wood stove go out, come back to a 38-degree place and then try and warm it back up again.
yeah, well, I don't go anywhere. and I get this kid to bring the wood up to the deck, because actually to get the wood from the wood pile, you got to go up 12 steps and load it onto the deck. We're in our house because we live like up from our upstairs from the basement, and because there's a creek that really...
Need an old-fashioned, like a coal chute, you need a wood chute.
Yeah, no, we need what did he get? He got a winch. He wants to put a platform, and use a winch. He's got the motor thing, but then it's a motor. It's not like we're going to pull up the wood stove. But it is interesting. Isn't it something where we can go on these conversations? the chat. Yeah.
When I'd be out on the ice, for weeks on end, if I didn't have the oil, I would come back to an icebox.
Yeah, and up there, that's pretty serious. Somebody asked me if you had any kids, Jim.
I'm sorry?
Somebody asked me if you had any kids. Group.
Just the four-legged types.
Ah, okay. So you're.
I used to have a sled dog team.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's hear about that. Well, let's hear about your sled dog team.
Oh, that was a long time ago. My dogs are long since departed this world after living long, happy lives, I hope. Yeah, it's a blast hooking up your dogs to the sled and going out into the wilderness. Just a blast.
It's
just
is.
You and the dogs.
Wow. I mean, I've seen it on television, So tell us, do you think now that climate change is really a contender, what do you think is happening for the mushers?
Well, let's put it this way. A couple of years ago, the Iditarod, which usually has a ceremonial start in Anchorage, they had to bring in snow and put it on 4th Ave so the dog teams can, do their thing. Then they couldn't start it in Willow because there wasn't enough snow, so they came up with Fairbanks. And so we had the actual actual race itself start here in Fairbanks, which, if you look at what the Iditarod commemorates, it commemorates the 1925 serum run, the deuterium serum run to Nome. And what happened there was they found some of the serum in Anchorage. They put it on a train to Nenana.
Okay.
Nenana is 55 miles south of Fairbanks. And then there was a set up of relay teams from Nenana out to Nome. And, it was one of the most brutal winters ever. It was like 70 below ambient temperatures, wind chills to over 100 below.
Wow.
It's 1925.
Yeah.
The equipment nowadays. And the mushers would go out and basically run, 10, 20 miles, get to a roadhouse, hand off the serum to the next team waiting, and off they go. That kind of stuff there. And, it's a long, fascinating story. There's an excellent book called The Cruelest Miles written about it.
Okay.
Leonard Seppala, a Norwegian immigrant, he was the one to help develop the Alaskan husky. And he had this lead dog called Togo, who was just winning everything.
Wow.
And Togo was 14 years old. This was his last great race, and when he shined. And Seppala left Nome, headed across the Norton Sound to meet a team coming the other way. And then
Really?
So that team ended up doing 350 miles or something like that.
Wow.
I have an upcoming video where I actually, as a side note, I discuss basically about sea ice and wind blowing the sea ice and stuff like that, where I talk about that. It's a fascinating story, and Togo, everyone talks about the Balco. Togo is the hero, in my opinion.
Aw. This is so cool. It is.
I just recently, back in March, I lost my 14-year-old Malamute.
Aw.
So I have no dogs now.
No dogs at all. I don't either, actually. I had a Malamute at one time. Had Shepherd Chow and a Malamute. I loved them, but the Malamute and the Shepherd Chow used to fight, and I couldn't keep the Malamute, unfortunately. Sheena. They used to fight over me. One would be on one side of the bed, and the other would be on the other side of the bed, and if I looked at somebody and they got the wrong attention, they didn't like it. I was tough.
Kira, that was she was definitely an alpha bitch.
An alpha bitch. I'm an alpha bitch. I'm the alpha bitch.
Enforcer, because if there was like a dog fight, she'd just go in there and she would like pin the dog down. It was like, and they were like, okay, they just break it up.
Gosh. Oh.
Yeah, you didn't mess with Kira.
So, Jim, see, there is life beyond your science class videos. There is. Yay. We like that.
It's kind of an interesting thing because music is very mathematical, but a lot of scientists are amateur musicians.
Oh, really?
It's just something that is. Well, Brian May, the guitarist from Queen.
Yeah.
He has a PhD in astrophysics.
Oh, I never knew that. No kidding.
In fact, he was on the imaging team that looked at the images New Horizons sent as it flew past Pluto.
Wow.
That's his work.
Astrophysics. Ooh, that's a little. That's.
Brian May.
Hey, Void, you were a.
Anyway.
What this chat's going. This is a really good conversation. I'm really enjoying it. I'm definitely going to edit the video and make it into like a two-parter and take out all the mess from the beginning. But people are very excited. Den, your Amish dog will be 5. When you start talking about dogs, somebody asked me maybe today I might get a dog. It's a little pit named Lucy, and she is just so cute and is loving, and she loves cats. So that we have to see what happens with that. But anyway,
I'm at the point now. I'm in my 60s now, and I'm not getting another dog. I'm not getting another dog, so I have I kind of want to do a little more traveling whenever the hell that can happen again.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you're welcome to come to Western New York.
Right now.
You're welcome to come visit. What was I going to ask you? Well, I didn't think you were in your 60s. So I guess Alaska's preserving you pretty well. Must be the good outside cold living.
Alaska's a harsh place. Let's to be quite honest about it.
Yeah.
It's a hard place. I mean, I lived for many years in a dry cabin. I mean, small cabin, no running water, no plumbing, an outhouse. I lived like that for many years.
Wow.
So when I built my house, yes, I have a holding tank, so I can take a shower here and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I still have to haul water home. I have a 150-gallon tank in my truck. I fill that up, I drive it home, and I pump it over.
That is. That's off grid. That's off grid living.
When you have to haul water, it teaches you water conservation.
Absolutely. I mean, I have water conservation here because I have well water. And we have 2 pumps on the property, and I use the one old one to irrigate my garden. And even though it has a timer, it leaks. So I'm always cognizant of going out and pulling up the lever and pulling down the lever and all. And so I'm very cognizant of water here, too, although we are getting a lot of we're getting a lot of rain, but this has been great. We're an hour 16.
In all seriousness, there's a very serious issue here related to climate change, and that is the availability of fresh, clean drinking water. I am of the opinion that the next war is going to be fought over clean water.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say, because water is life, and it gives life. I said it right when Den McCartney said, yeah, water is life. Tell us, what do you see? How do you see it starting? What part of the Middle East?
What part of the Middle East?
You think?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, where do you think that's going to start?
Canada.
Wow.
Because Canada has, when you look at, proportion-wise with landmass, Canada has the most fresh water.
Oh, more than the Great Lakes, right?
Well, Great Lakes are split between the two
Yes,
countries.
It is. I lived on Lake Erie for...
You got the Slave Lakes, you got Bear Lakes, you got there's a myriad of other lakes there. But Canada has the most fresh water per unit area than any other country.
Wow.
And that includes Russia with Lake Baikal, which is the deepest lake on the planet.
I don't want to see this. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I want to live. I don't even know if I can stand seeing what I'm seeing now. But, as I said to somebody today, we all go through the, I think if you're in this and you're awake in this genre and you understand what's going on, we go through the 5 stages of grief maybe 5 times a year. That's what I think. Wow, geez, it's like very distressing every single day, and then to add the political on top of the ecological is overwhelming for people. So that's probably why somebody like Al Roker can't give any time to it. He probably can't even handle it, and he's a meteorologist. He knows better.
Don't forget the mainstream media owned by corporations.
So of course.
It's against their best interest to talk about this stuff.
Of course.
And as I say in a lot of my videos, all the scientists can do is we collect the data, we analyze it, we share our findings, we can make our recommendations, but it's up to the politicians to actually implement the damn things. And that's where it gets frustrating.
Yeah. Groot says, where are the younger generation? They're out in the streets, Groot. If you haven't noticed, you're in LA. You should have seen the younger generation saying we fucked them. I've had discussions. I had a comment by someone that was actually excellent because I made a comment on one of my live streams about, well, it's the kids that are out there. They're out there. And she said, I think it's a she said, well, I was passing the buck. And no, I wasn't passing the buck. I felt like I'm not passing the buck on to them. We were raised in a time when we didn't know the things we were involved in were going to end up like this. A lot of us didn't know. And then when we did know, we tried. Somebody like me tried. I mean, I've been in Washington many times to march for different reasons against Iraq 1, 2. I took my kid in the stroller for pro-choice marches. So, I mean, there are those of us that did those things, and guess what? Not a goddamn thing changed, and look where we are now. But
and don't forget that the oil companies knew back in the 70s that adding CO2 to the atmosphere was going to warm the planet. We had the documents exist that show this.
yeah, and they
chose not to do anything.
Of course they did. They said don't do anything. Of course they did.
And they're not doing anything now. Look at the crap that the DNC platform is released. It's like, are you flipping kidding me? You know, it's just nothing is going to change until there's a total collapse.
Yeah. And that's why these kids are mad. That's why, because they know that we know that they're going to be the ones that are going to go through this collapse. We're not. We're going to be dead. And that's why she said I'm passing the buck, because we left them with this shit.
Well, I do what I can with. That's actually part of the reason why I started my channel, was just to try and get this info out there.
Yeah.
Because I was alarmed at what I was seeing.
And you're doing a great job.
I see it day in and day out. I read the scientific, I read the scientific journals, peer-reviewed journals. I look at the data. I still have my connections with IARC, my old place that I worked at. So I'm in discussion with the scientists there, and sometimes I pop in, we look at the data, we discuss and all this other stuff. But I'm seeing the data, and I'm just like, this is depressing when you see how much of what's going on. It is overwhelming. But that's why you look at when I first started the channel, I was talking about a lot of different topics, and I just said, no, I'm just going to focus on what I know best, which is climatology and oceanography, with a few other things tossed in there related to climate. And that's what I talk about. I just posted a video today, climate tipping points.
Yeah, I watched it. Of course I did. Oh, that was another question. I'm glad you brought it up. Groot asked earlier, way earlier, I can't go back to find it, but Groot asked about tipping points, and what do you think the first one is? I wish I could find it. It's way back. What do you think is the first tipping point that's going to affect us? You might have. Oh, how many? Here, ask again. How many tipping points are we facing, and which one's first? There you go. I found it.
Right now, about 7, 8, or 9.
7, 8, or 9. Boy, that's so comforting, isn't it?
Like I started that video today. It's like, I hate it when I'm right.
Yeah. Jeez. It was a good video.
And the thing is, it's like, maybe because I'm an oceanographer, but I keep harping on the importance of the conveyor belt and how that really does drive a planetary climate. And what's going on with the AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturn Circulation, is really affecting things. And there's so many things leading to that, but that's huge, in my view. That's huge. So that's probably, that to me drives what everything else happened. But you still have the issue with the permafrost thawing and all that methane and CO2 being released. Then you've got the fires, you've got you just got the acidification of the oceans. You have all the species that are going extinct. There's just so many things happening, and it's cascading all at once.
Right.
It's like the air temperature is warming. Well, it's not warming linearly as we thought. It's warming exponentially. Sea ice, land ice loss is melting at exponential rates now. Everything's just going exponential, and it's just crazy. It's chaos theory. Everything is, you just have one little perturbation, and everything's gone a wacko.
Yeah, that's what you said today. You were talking about chaos theory. Chaos theory. Well, Poppy had said, oh, please, we can't rank the tipping points, though. Yeah, we can't really rank them because there's just so many.
Well,
Feedback
I used to think that we were close to the tipping point. Maybe we passed it, or we're close to passing it. I now think we've gone past it. And because of the thermal inertia that's in the system as a main contributor. And it's because what's happening is the humans have perturbed the system, and Earth is trying to find its new equilibrium set. But the problem is, because we continue to perturb the system, Earth cannot find its new equilibrium condition. And so the system keeps getting perturbed, more perturbation. This is we get chaos theory where everything just runs out of control. And that's, I think, is what we're seeing.
That's what we're seeing. And yet the clueless morons in this world that run around and just say, we don't want to wear a mask. I mean, it's like ludicrous compared to what's really happening. Oh my God.
Well, the other thing is, I did a video on like the 5 common things that climate deniers use, and I go through that argument there. But the one thing they always say is, well, the Earth's climate's changed in the past. Well, true, yes, it has. The problem is, and this is the key difference that people need to understand, it's the rate of change. The rate of change we're seeing is nothing that we have data for previously. And it's the fastest rate of change that we're seeing. That's the whole key concept of this. To understanding what's going on.
The rate of change. Somebody did ask that question earlier about climate deniers, and boy, there was. And so, I wish I could find the other question. Oh well, about climate deniers, and I don't know. Oh, I have one more question that you might know about. He's not here with us, but there is a gentleman that is always asking me why in Ireland it is so goddamn cold now. He's like, so much for global warming. It's always cold in that part of Europe. You know anything about that?
North Atlantic Oscillation.
Okay. I'll have to tell him to go to your channel.
The North Atlantic Oscillation right now is in the negative phase, so that will keep those places on the cool side. But this is another thing. People mix up weather with climate.
Right. All the time.
I mean, what's climate? Climate is long-term weather that's averaged. So think of a line that's plotting, say, temperature over time. So it goes up and down, it's jagged all over the place, and you see some seasonalities to it. You see some 24-hour cycles to it because daylight, sunlight, that kind of nighttime, that kind of stuff, winter, summer, the season. But then if you look at it, and we have statistical methods that can look at such a data, and you can use a Fourier smoothing transform procedure, use a regression analysis, but you can find trends in here. And so you have this jagged lines going all over the place, and then you fit a line through it, and the line has positive slope. Well, the jagged line is weather. The regression line, is climate. The positive slope tells us that temperature is increasing. It's a simple way to use it, to explain it, but that's the general concept.
Yeah, Torstein Going South says it's a jet stream thing.
Interesting to mention the jet stream. Because the jet stream is changing. And it's changing due to climate change. The jet stream is typically a zonal flow, meaning it stays kind of within like a narrow latitudinal band. But we're warming up the planet such that, and the Arctic is warming faster than anywhere else, so that the temperature and what follows with temperature is the pressure gradient is not as defined as it has been. So now the gradient is weaker, so the jet stream now starts to meander. It's meandering to the point now that the jet stream is more of a meridional flow, so it's following longitudinal lines, and because the gradient is weaker, the flow is slower. The flow is slower. Say that sometimes fast, but the flow is slower.
The flow is slower. The flow is slower.
A system like Harvey, it parks itself over Texas and just keeps pissing on Texas.
Oh my God. Well,
that's something we're seeing, that rain events are becoming longer in duration because the jet streams are just so slow.
That's happening here. And I've been saying, I'm in Western New York in the southern tier, and I say all the time, I think it's like we're in Florida. It's hot as hell during the day, and then we get these thunderstorms in the afternoon, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't like Florida. I don't want to live in Florida.
You were experiencing climate change due to global warming, but also
Yep.
you were feeling the effects of the changing jet stream.
Yeah, well, so is my garden.
I can tell you that right now.
Yep, and
I've done videos on that, and I even have another video that I'm editing now that I talk about how the changing jet streams are affecting the bread baskets around the world.
oh, see, guys, you have to definitely sub Jim and at least get him to 1,000 subs, because he's got a great channel, and I've learned so much. And he's also fun to talk to. This has been great. I just wish our audio, I wish the video had worked better, but this turned out pretty good. And I didn't even need those headphones on after I did this phone thing. The whole time I've had these headphones on for no reason at all.
I'm always of the opinion there's always a solution.
Yeah, well, we found one. And thank you to everybody out there who said, you know what, heck with it. Just use the landline. And I've done this before. I've had to use the landline, but several years ago. I haven't had this much problem with Skype in a long time.
Alaska is just, we're just out by Neptune or something.
Yeah, but I've seen you on live, and you looked okay on the Natural Progressive. So I was a little bit miffed that I don't have that. But again, she's got hardwired.
Different platform.
Yeah, different platform.
Different buffering, different streaming capabilities, isn't it?
Oh, my upload speed.
Yourself up over this.
I can't. My upload speed is like 3 Mbps's. It's horrible. And in fact, I bitch about this all the time, way too much. And I'm definitely going to edit this video because people don't need to listen to me bitch about my internet ad nauseum. Okay. So, yes, Jake had asked, I will put up Jim's page. I will put up links to things to his 2 pages. In fact, if I can just show you really quickly before we leave, I'll pull up the to let you see what they look like. And here they are. There's Science Talk with Jim Massa. He's got 2 pages. And then he also has a page with Whitney and Jim, the Science Report. It's brand new. They only have 17 subscribers, but they're making videos short and sweet. Pink snow in the Italian Alps, global sea surface temperature, May 2020 temperature, anomalies. And then here's Jim's. Now Jim's alone. This was the climate tipping point one right here. This was really good. I listened to that one. I listen to as many as I can. Heat waves and fires in Siberia. And then the one that broke my heart, Moose Ravaged by Ticks. Oh, that was a tough one. But you have your playlists, and you have a lot of information. You could actually, after listening to your playlist, climate change, paleontology, science talk, all the things, astronomy, you could almost have a little degree in science talk with Jim Massa because your stuff is good. So I think definitely, guys, you have to subscribe. So Jim, I think it's 1 hour and 33 minutes. I want to thank everyone for coming. This has been fantastic, and thank you. Already you're getting some sub. Going South, he said he subbed years ago. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Jennifer Elizabeth, thank you for subbing. Heidi has one more question. Won't the pipelines affect the Ogallala aquifer, which is the breadbasket of America, and we want to protect our food source there? Anything about that one?
I didn't catch the second part of that.
Okay. Won't the pipelines affect the Ogallala aquifer, which is the breadbasket of America, and we want to protect our food source there?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're already seeing that the Dakota pipeline has already been leaking, and yeah, you get that oil into groundwater, into the aquifer, it's game over.
Game over.
Man, seriously, I mean, it's game over to growing crops, to drinking water, and that kind of stuff. And don't forget, the Ogallala aquifer has already been so depleted already. already that there's now brine water infiltrating the Ogallala, which the plants are not adapted for.
Wow.
So it's underground pipes, they leak. They just leak. They're going the wells seems fail, whatever, corrosion of the oil. They're going to leak. That stuff is going to get into the groundwater, into the water table, the aquifers, what have you. It's not going to be good.
Thank you for answering that. So Poppy says the Ogallala is screwed. It is. It's really hurtful. But we know that there's support out there in other channels and other people like Carolyn Baker, and we have support when we need it. There's places on Facebook and groups on Facebook, and even our channel is a support for each other in these times that we are going through. This is probably one of the, yes, human history has been chocked full of difficulties, but I think being near the end of human history is not an easy one. Definitely. I don't think people ever thought they were at the end of human history, although we don't know, right? What does history tell us?
I did a video segment some time ago about a think tank out of Australia was saying that very likely that human civilization will end by 2050.
Oh boy.
That's what
guys, you have
their analysis. It's like, well, that's sobering. That's 30 years from now.
You got a lot of videos, guys, playlists and videos that you can peruse on Jim's channel and learn. And I think it's been great. And I am really, myself, I'm very happy we did this. Again, I wish that the Skype had worked, but this worked out all right. I've got your website up. I've got your picture up. It's just like you're right here. So it worked out.
I'm actually looking at it now. Folks, just click on the video tabs there, and you just scroll down, and you'll see all my videos that I've ever posted. And I did a series on the oscillatory systems of the planet. So ENSO, NAO, AO, etc. It's all there. I did one on rotating systems. I did one on isotopic fractionation, which explains how we use isotopes to recreate past climates. I've got one coming on ice algae and on stratification and mixing in bodies of water. So that one's a longie. That's like almost a 2-hour vid, but it is what it is.
Well,
and I've got my shorter videos where I discuss, the Atlantic Meridional overturn circulation, what's going on with the ice sheets, and all that kind of stuff.
I can always help you in video edit. I can always video edit. You want to become a part of our channel? I'll video edit for you, because I'm definitely going to do that with this. Well, you fit. I could see us. I'd like to have you on again, and even if we have to do it this way, but I'd like to have you on with Nicholas and Antonio and Jennifer. And of course,
that's cool.
Yeah, I'll have you on the phone because I don't have the bandwidth to do everybody. I don't think I do, but I think it would be great to have you with the whole team. And I will just host and let let the conversation flow between all the four of you. Oh, I think what guys would you like to see that out in the chat?
Definitely.
Yeah. Good.
And also, to be quite honest, it's always good to hear other people's perspectives. I mean, that's what science is about. You get the opinions based on data, what others are thinking or what they're hypothesizing, and you disseminate the idea that you have a nice discourse that way. So that's having presented papers at scientific conferences. Oh yeah, they can get heated.
Right.
That's what scientists do. We argue.
Yeah, well, why not? Argue and discuss and flesh out and work on and all that. But there are so many videos that you have done, and it's amazing. I mean, really, graduate with a little science certificate just from all of the videos on your channel. So I want to thank you, and Jim Massa would be a good regular with credentials for real news. Well, yeah. Actually, Jim, I think it's great. I'd love to have you come on to us a little bit more. So I think we're going to cut you loose, guys, because this is a long one for me, and I'm having a problem sitting for this long anymore. Thank you. And somebody had asked about the coffee cup. You'll be understanding why I have the coffee cup pretty soon.
Well,
We don't ask for donations.
On Sandy, it's been really. I mean, I've been following your channel for quite some time, and it's just. I think you're doing great stuff there, and it's just really cool that we finally were able to connect and
I know.
do something together. And I'm definitely up for just continuing on to the future.
Thank you. I loved it. It was great. Okay, well, everybody, I am going to disconnect. I'm going to end with, I always like to end with one person's comment. I'm ending with Poppy. She says, I should get a PhD in Google searches. I think that's a great one to end with. Thank you, everybody. Jim, you stay on the phone, and thanks, guys. Probably I'm going to take this one down and edit it. I might leave it up a little bit so you can look at, well, I don't know if the chat will play back or not, but thank you all. But I think this is definitely an editable one. So, peace out, guys. Love you all. Thank you for coming. And I'll see you on Sunday night with Jennifer. All righty. Peace out.